Good morning, everyone. I'm Lonzo Williams, the godfather of West Coast hip hop, president of the Compton Entertainment Chamber of Commerce, and also today I am the host of the Compton Chronicles. My guest is a gentleman I met a few months ago in Santa Monica. I think we were at the one of those nice hotels in Santa Monica, and I was on a panel, and I said something that struck a nerve with him, and we met outside in the lobby, and we started talking. And what he had to say, I thought was kind of interesting. And I like politics. And although he's a Republican, I'm not mad at him about that at all. He asked me, "You mind talking to a Republican?" I don't mind. Let's talk. So anyway, today we have a candidate. His name is Keith Cascio, correct?
Cascio.
Keith Cascio. He's running for the 55th Assembly District. That's around the Culver City area, correct?
So the west side of it is Culver City. The east side of it, you look at it more like Crenshaw.
Okay. All right. Look, I'm going to stop talking. You start talking. There you go. Keith Cascio.
So it's 2024. In California here, we're 16 days away from ballots going out in probably one of the most unprecedented election cycles in American history. Definitely at the national level, there are things happening that we've never really seen before. At the local level here, running for the lower house of the California legislature, what we call the assembly here in California, we want to keep things a lot more normal. The California Constitution says there's 80 assembly districts in the state of California. Okay. LA County is so big that 24 of those are in LA County. And one of the most special ones really in the whole state is the 55th district. It's numbered 55 now. They change the lines every 10 years, but right now it goes from Lincoln Boulevard at the border of Santa Monica to Normandy is the east border. And the southern border is the northern border of Inglewood, which sometimes is like a little south of Slauson, sometimes it's Jefferson. And then the northern border is complicated and jagged, but the northernmost point is the Beverly Center.
That's a nice piece of territory.
So you take the population of the state of California, 40 million people, divided by 80, you get 500,000 people. So these districts have to be big. And this district where I have lived for 23 years, I'm from Brooklyn, New York originally, but if you measure diversity by the mix of people, it's the most diverse district in all of California.
I can see that.
The current demographics of people, now this is not registered voters, but just human beings, is 30% African American, 25% Latino, 11% Asian, has some of the most important Jewish communities in all of California in the Pico Robertson neighborhood.
Okay. And
the history, though, of the district is it's the most historic Black district in California.
Right. All right. Now you got your hands full there, sir.
Okay. I moved here 23 years ago. When I first came to California, very briefly, I lived in Hollywood, but then I made my way over here because I started working at UCLA. I'm a software engineer by profession.
Okay.
And I knew that it was a diverse area. It kind of reminded me of where I'm originally from, Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
It wasn't until I got into politics that I started to understand that the history of the Black community in the district. And I'll just try to give a few facts that your listeners would definitely, quickly know, is that the two most politically important places in the district is First AME Church, the first Black church in Los Angeles, right, and West Angeles Church of God in Christ, another extremely important Black church. You can't do politics in this district without, visiting First AME, without visiting West Angeles and many other places. Another extremely important political fact, but in order to know this fact, you have to dig up the old maps because they change the lines every 10 years. So, it's pretty easy to go back 20 years. It's pretty easy to go back 30 years. Once you start going back 40, 50, 60 years, it's harder to find the maps. But I've done that research and I've overlaid them and I've matched them up and understood like what number corresponds to roughly this area. I call it the Culver Crenshaw district.
Okay.
Because Culver City was founded in 1917 and the folks that drew these lines, they always draw Culver City along with Crenshaw and Leimert Park and everything in between. They put those together. So I call it the Culver Crenshaw District. And it has been represented by a black person for 57 years consecutively. And we could really quickly, we could go through the history. In 1967, Yvonne Brathwaite Burke was elected to represent the district. Then, and these are all going to be extremely famous names, you know, Julian Dixon, Gwen Moore, Kevin Murray, who's the current CEO of the Weingart Center in Skid Row, Herb Weston, then none other than Mayor Karen Bass used to be the assembly person for this district. Then none other than County Supervisor Holly Mitchell, used to be the assembly person. Then Sebastian Ridley Thomas, then Congresswoman Sidney Comlodger, the current Congresswoman, used to be the assembly person. And then my opponent, Assemblyman Isaac Bryan, who is a nice person and a person I think has a good heart. And what the voters in the district know and what his campaign knows is that I don't campaign negatively against him. I basically try to compete on the issues, and I try to, you know, really network and connect with the community and compete that way.
Okay. That's very unique in this day and time. I mean, with mudslinging being the main way of promoting or campaigning, to say something nice about your opponent is commendable, first of all. And I don't know much about him as of right now, but I'm quite sure we're going to find out more as we go along here. Tell me what some of the issues that you think that you have a better answer for than he does.
It's not just a better answer, but some of this is like has to do with field position and it has to do with political structure. Okay. So, but first, let me say how us candidates should figure out what the issues should be. We should do a lot of door-to-door work. And I have done lots of door-to-door work in this district, in Mar Vista, Culver City, Ladera Heights, Baldwin Hills, the beautiful View Park, you know, Miracle Mile area, Pico Robertson area. And, you know, anyone who knows LA quickly understands like how diverse these neighborhoods are. You know, a black neighborhood, a Latino neighborhood, a Jewish neighborhood, an Asian neighborhood. And yet, when I ask folks at their doorstep, you know, what are you concerned about? The answer has been remarkably consistent. It's been homelessness and public safety. If there's a third issue, it's cost of rent. So that's how I kind of have found out, you know, what my neighbors and the citizens of this district are concerned about. And then I've spent, you know, this is my second cycle running for this seat. I ran for this seat in the 2022 cycle. Here I am running for it in the 2024 cycle. So I've had about 2.5 years to investigate and research these issues. And it does seem like there are, you know, examples in the United States, in other states, or maybe in other cities in California, where extremely good work has been done on these issues that we could think about in LA County. We could think about trying to emulate. And if there is an obstacle to that, in my view, what that is a phenomenon that we've kind of drifted into in some urban areas in the United States where I'm originally from, New York City, in Chicago, probably people would say this, and in Los Angeles, we have what most political scientists would call machine politics.
Okay.
What that is defined as is a kind of a political system that, you know, implicitly is controlled by one party. And there is less and less what you would call full-on political competition happening in that system.
Okay.
And, you know, studying history shows that you don't expect to get as much accountability in an area of a country where politics is functioning like that. And so the concept is that injecting a little bit more political competition into that system, you're going to get more responsiveness from government. Okay. So let's say you're going to get more responsiveness on the homelessness crisis. going to get more responsiveness on the perception of, public safety, and you'll get more responsiveness on that third issue that I mentioned that has to do with cost of housing. And maybe we'll get a chance to talk about this issue that has become extremely hot in LA now and in California, and especially in the 55th district, the most historic Black district in California, ever since August 31st, with the dramatic events that occurred in the California legislature around this important issue of reparations.
Right. Now that's what got us back on the phone again. You saw my newspaper article with Steve Bradford on the cover, and you give me a text, and this is how we started talking again. And you said you had some thoughts, opinions, some revelations in regards to reparations. You want to share those with us right quick?
I'd like to, yes. So, my political experience has given me the chance to know a thing or two about parliamentary procedure and about, what you would call political gamesmanship, and, the kind of back and forth and deals that get made between lawmakers in deliberative bodies like the California legislature, the California State Senate, the California Assembly. And so I heard about some displeasure and some frustration from some activists about things that happened in Sacramento on August 31st, which was the last day of the California legislative session. And I, went straight onto the internet, and I started finding all kinds of interesting videos, some of them with people chanting slogans and being upset, and very heated exchanges between extremely well-known lawmakers on the California Legislative Black Caucus, okay, which is a group of 12 very well-credentialed, very hardworking Black lawmakers in California. So there are 3 state senators and 9 state assembly people on that caucus. And I saw these videos of activists, some of whom I know well from, conversing with them in Leimert Park, okay, which many people would say is a center of Black culture in Los Angeles. And there's a lot of opportunities to be there and to have extremely important political conversations. So I recognize some of my friends up in the Capitol Rotunda in Sacramento, and they're talking to Reggie Jones Sawyer, Assemblyman Reggie Jones Sawyer. They're talking to State Senator Stephen Bradford. I looked into it, and, I said to myself, it looks like, the legislators procrastinate just like the rest of us do. And so pretty much like a huge amount of lawmaking was left to the last 48 hours of the legislative session. And then the folks that were championing these reparations bills, SB 1331 and SB 1403, got a surprise in the form of some requested amendments from the governor. But what I would ask the audience to consider is that requested amendments from the governor, right? What's that? Where's that really coming from? That's coming from the machine, okay, right? That's coming from the system. That's coming from the Democratic Party establishment in California, right? Like Governor Gavin Newsom did not create those amendments. And so we have this, extremely hardworking group of folks, the California Legislative Black Caucus, who are, trying to champion something that many of the folks in my district are, counting on. And right, and then the sort of establishment, throws a kind of a curveball at the last minute. And to me, this has been the most concrete example of a message that I've been trying to get out to voters, that politics is messy. Real politics is messy. So you almost want to, not do it. You'd rather that the whole system and the whole situation just be kind of streamlined for you.
Right.
But here's where here's where that kind of comes back to bite you, because you have representatives who are, some people think that our elected officials are public servants. Some people don't think that they're public servants, but you have representatives who aren't as independent from the establishment as you all of a sudden wish they could be.
Go ahead, Listen, I'm just listening now.
Thank you, Lonzo. And I really appreciate your perspective on these issues. By the way, I was looking at Instagram, and I think sometimes you hang out with a man named Dexter McLeod, who's the president of the LA South Chamber of Commerce, and I've had great conversations with him about these issues as well. But I just am thrilled with the idea that the right kind of participation in the civic process and the right kind of campaigning for office could significantly benefit my neighbors, my friends, and the folks that I've been living with and celebrating all kinds of diverse holidays with for 23 years that I've been here in this district, because the system has drifted so far into kind of streamlined machine politics. And now, lawmaking around the issue of reparations, that's a completely different, that's a horse of a different color. It's something that is hundreds of years in the making. It's something that is intrinsic to American identity. It's intrinsic to the American economy. And so championing bills around that issue, that's not going to be like a bill to repave the 118 freeway.
Okay.
It's going to be a whole different kind of a fight. And I have gone on the record. If somebody were to visit my campaign website, keithfor55.org, they can find media where I'm being interviewed, and I'm saying that I am pro slavery reparations for the class of folks that are known as FBA ADOS.
What is that? Oh,
so those are
okay. Go ahead.
Those are really important legal acronyms, both of which were created in Los Angeles, and that just goes to show you the degree to which the city of Los Angeles is a leader in this space. That kind of work, that kind of philosophical or thought work could have been done anywhere in the United States.
Okay.
But it was done in Los Angeles because Mr. Tariq Nasheed, created the term FBA, which stands for Foundational Black American, and two, legal professionals, Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore, created the term ADOS, American Descendant of Slaves. And so I have gone on the record as being, pro slavery reparations for FBA ADOS. As I was saying, the kind of emotional roller coaster and reparations is something that's been approached and investigated seriously in the United States since the 1980s at the federal level. And it's unfortunately, it's always been an emotional roller coaster. So this new phase of the emotional roller coaster since August 31st in Sacramento has, in my view, been the most concrete example so far of the need for the activists. And there are many awesome activists in the 55th. Okay, like BLMLA is most active in the 55th district. The Center for Black Power, which is a building that is completely owned by BLMLA, is in Leimert Park in the 55th. And so what I'm saying is that the activists have an opportunity here to re-embrace a full-on version of political competition. And what's the responsibility of us Republican candidates in playing our part in that? Well, we need to show up educated and informed and respectfully, and we need to do an enormous amount of listening, which is what I've mostly been doing. I try to come in at about a 90-10 ratio of 90% listening and about 10% talking. So it's extremely kind of you to give me some time to speak here. So Lonzo, let me know if you feel like I'm, or what part of the reparations issue you feel like it would be best to focus on right here.
Well, I I know Steve Bradford personally. He and I have talked on several occasions. I've seen his interviews since the vote or the lack of the vote, and for the bill to be passed, go through various houses without any opposition, to be not voted on at the last minute, or not be had no opposition all this time. All of a sudden, here we are, the last day of the last day. All of a sudden, we got opposition. That was a total surprise for everybody, to my understanding, and including the people on the streets who were like, "Okay, we got a chance to get this finally. Now what? You're not even going to take it to the tape, put it on the governor, even vote to put it on the governor's tape on his desk? What happened?" And that's where everybody's confused to find out exactly what happened. You're explaining it in a different kind of way, in a political way, and some of us understand it. But bottom line is, it sounds like some political. It's being used as a political football now, as opposed to what it should be, reparations for the community. And that's the part a lot of us don't understand. How is it that we can't even get on the governor's desk for him to veto it, or at least look at it without having some other so-called research being done? Because I think, if I'm mistaken, we spent $12 million in about 3 or 4 years doing research to get where we are right now. And now you want some more research. And that's the part where everybody's kind of confused and a little upset at.
They'll take, the product of that research was a 1,080-page document and a 74-page document. That is the product of the California Reparations Task Force in Sacramento. The full report is 1,080 pages, easily downloadable from Senator Bradford's website.
Okay.
And the executive summary is a 74-page document. Of course, we would recommend that everybody start with that smaller 74-page document, which still is extremely full of valuable information. And so if I could share, from my political perspective, the resistance that ended up cropping up there seemingly at the last moment, my guess is that's going to be the tip of the iceberg, unfortunately. Okay. I think that is just the beginning of the amount of resistance that's going to end up showing up, because this is so much deeper of a project than the normal business of the California legislature. Hey, California is leading the whole country on this, right? The reparations work that had been happening at the federal level has completely stalled. And so, as is often the case, California, the 5th largest economy in the world, forget the United States, is leading the way on it. But with that kind of a position of leadership, you are going to catch the attention of absolutely everybody, as it should be. And in my view, enthusiastically and cheerfully pursuing the question of reparations is the very best way to pursue a racial reconciliation, or as the folks that are really experts in reparations would call it. They call it a lineage-based reconciliation, a lineage-based reckoning. But for kind of like the average American, the perspective they're going to have on it is that this is a racial reckoning. To me, the very healthiest and best way to address that is to investigate the question of reparations, because it's quantitative, because it's precise. Hey, I'm a software engineer by profession. I have a mathematics background. So that's when you really get serious about something, you start putting numbers to it.
Okay.
And then the process of figuring out what those numbers should be, that's where the incredibly interesting conversations happen, where you really dig into history. So again, I am sharing that I think that this seemingly sudden resistance was a long time coming, really. Sure. I think that it's got to be expected, and it's going to take a little bit more political courage to embrace a full-fledged competitive political process where you're going to get representatives that are going to be more independent from the machine, so that if you'll permit me to dramatize this a little bit, when Gavin Newsom says boo, it's like everybody isn't just running away, you know, where you have people that Gavin Newsom and the establishment can say boo, and you know, you can look them right back in the face and say, we know exactly who we are, we know exactly what we're here for, we were anticipating this, and we've got an answer for this.
Okay. I got a question for you. If you are blessed with the opportunity to be the assemblyman for the 55th district, and we look at this again. Now you're a Republican. You on the red team, okay? And it comes up again and goes to the assembly for a vote. How do you think you would respond to that? Would you be favorable? I mean, you're in a very diverse assembly district. There's going to be some opposition in your district. There's going to be some favor in your district. How do you think you would respond to that?
I know exactly. I've thought so much about this. So one thing that a candidate like myself will know, a candidate like myself knows things that almost nobody else knows, because who else is in a position to spend 2.5 years just methodically going out to every organization that you can think of, to the most important black churches, going out to the synagogues, going out to the mosques, you know, King Fahad Mosque in Culver City, going to the chambers of commerce, and having conversations that are totally open-ended. You know, they're not driven by a necessity for some other kind of a project. It's like, I'm just showing up and I'm finding out what people really think. Who else is going to be able to know as confidently and as certainly as I do that whoever is going to be the assembly person for the 55th district of whichever party, of whichever ethnicity that the person is, you know, I'm a Caucasian person, is going to need to go to Sacramento and advocate extremely effectively and enthusiastically for the black community in Los Angeles. Not just even the black community in the 55th, because the 55th is so special that it's kind of crucial for the entire black community in LA. So this assembly person is going to need to go to Sacramento and advocate, you know, with great passion. And then another thing that I know from 2.5 years of having these conversations is that the black community in Los Angeles and in this district, it wants the project and the question of reparations to be prioritized.
Okay.
But you know, it may seem obvious as we talk about it right now, but people debate that. You know, you could go to a barbershop and you can find both sides of the question being represented there. You know, there's people still debating whether that's something that the black community wants prioritized. But I'm sharing with this audience right now that I have become totally certain of that. Okay. And you know, that can give you a certain amount of political courage right there, because you just know that people, they want something and that they have your back for that.
You know, I know we're talking local versus I'm about to say something that goes national. The current nominee, Donald Trump, has made such a bad name for Republicans, for a lot of people in the 50th, 35th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It made no difference. He's made it rough for a lot of candidates, especially in diverse areas. How do you plan to overcome that? I mean, you got to get some black folks to push that button. You know, like you said, it's been predominantly a black district all these years, and now you're trying to change it to a white district, to a white candidate, a white assemblyman, and a Republican. Yeah. That's a tall order, Doc. That's a tall order. So talk to me.
So my good friend Keith McCowan, he happens to have the same name as me, a stalwart Republican and a black man who grew up in South Central LA. You know, he ran for this seat in 2012. So the Republican Party has run a variety of diverse candidates. At the present time, you know, the person who has the passion for it and the person who has the time turns out to be myself. But I appreciate the Donald Trump question. Imagine, you can't run for office in the 55th district without being asked about Donald Trump, many, many times. So I should have a very, refreshing answer for that question right now. So my perspective on American national politics is that the reason why we see it becoming as wild as it has become, as crazy as it has become, is because there are economic issues in the United States that nobody wants to talk about. And what our politics has become is a way of avoiding talking about those things.
Okay.
And so we have found some skirmishes to have at the national level, and we amplify these things greatly. And by the way, I've shared with the audience, I'm a software engineer by profession. I have experience with the creating the algorithms that run the algorithmic internet, and it is these algorithms that have contributed to ruining civic discourse in the United States. So I affirm to the citizens of the district, to my voters, that yes, the national political situation just looks totally unprecedented, totally wild. But if we were to try to take a deep breath and try to be a little bit objective about it, one thing most everyone knows is that American presidential elections are won in 6 or 7 swing states.
Yeah.
That California is already spoken for. So 6 or 7 swing states, and from the perspective of professional political strategists, they're winning those elections by influencing the swing voters. We in California, we have no idea what it's like to be a swing voter in one of those states. Like we're totally ignored. We don't get contacted by anyone. The swing voters in those states, they get contacted like every day. We don't even know what it's like. And here's a certain perspective on that. But let me contrast this, and let me say this as a way of trying to acknowledge the other perspectives that exist here. There's a political commentator that almost everybody knows named Van Jones.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody knows Van Jones, and there's an author that has published some books that is known by some, fewer people know him, but his name is Wesley Lowery. And he published a book called White Lash, and also Van Jones, when you ask him, what is the Donald Trump phenomenon? He will share that he thinks primarily it's a white lash. The United States elected its first black president, Barack Obama, and then there's been a racial backlash in the United States. I would share that. Yeah, I think that there's some of that, but then let's take it back to the swing states. And the answer I'm trying to give here is exactly the same answer I give to the voters in my district when they ask me about Donald Trump. And I'm trying to explain this seemingly almost impossible phenomenon. How is this man still the Republican Party nominee? And this is the answer, is that those swing voters in those swing states, a high percentage of them are what are called suburban white women. And the politics of those ladies is that it's conservative in a lot of ways, but yet they're pro-choice on the issue of abortion.
Okay.
They're pro-choice, and everybody in politics knows that issue is so incredibly important to American politics. And therefore, because the voters you need to win a presidential election actually are pro-choice. A candidate like Ron DeSantis, remember him?
Yeah.
And a candidate like Nikki Haley, they cannot under any circumstances win the presidency of the United States. They just can't. So the 150 million or so that was spent on Ron DeSantis's primary campaign was simply lit on fire because he signed a 6-week abortion ban in Florida, and by doing so, he foreclosed any political aspirations he had at the national level. It was over. It's a fascinating thing to have observed. But meanwhile, what does the Republican Party do? My party, what we have done is we have borrowed a pro-choice Democrat, because I think that's the most accurate description of Donald Trump.
Okay.
By the way, just because we're talking about this abortion issue, I want to assure the listeners, I am a pro-choice candidate myself.
Okay.
I'm a pro-choice Republican. Okay, that's rare.
Rare.
It's somewhat rare, because you want to talk about political football. I mean, that issue is the 50-year political football in the United States ever since 1973 with Roe versus Wade. That has been the football of footballs. But so what has my party done? My party, ever since 2015, has been borrowing a pro-choice Democrat. And I know a lot of people are not used to thinking about Donald Trump that way, but to run for president because he actually has a shot of winning. And in fact, in 2016, he did.
Right.
And so that is how I try to balance out the concern that the voters have in the district that the Trump phenomenon is primarily a white lash and that it's primarily a symptom of racial animosity, and say we're seeing some serious racial animosity in the United States for sure, and white supremacy is a problem in the country, no question about that. In fact, I just was dialed into a fascinating Zoom webinar yesterday on the white power movements throughout all of American history, and I learned a lot there. But at the same time, in my analysis, oddly enough, it's come down to this a question of abortion, and as long as there's kind of cognitive dissonance all around, where it's kind of like the Republican Party has to kind of try to satisfy a certain base that tends to be very religious, but at the same time, a candidate like Ron DeSantis can't win the presidency. You're going to get some very strange effects, and to me, that's what I would call the Donald Trump phenomenon, is a strange effect of cognitive dissonance.
All right. You know what? We got to wrap up. Tell them where they can find you at, Keith.
Thanks so much, Lonzo, and it's been a great pleasure chatting today. So the website is keithfor55.org. The Twitter is Keith Cascio 4CA. That's the number 4 and then CA. And those are some of the best places to find more information about me.
Keith, thank you very much. Good luck in the election. I appreciate the information, Doc. I hope we got people actually watching this live right now. They've been on this feed since we started. So good luck. You said a lot of interesting things. Hope everybody's been educated as well. That's why I didn't say a whole lot. I want to hear what you had to say because it's important to hear from the other side as well, no matter what side you on.
Lonzo, right. It was great. It was really great talking to you.
Great talking to you, Keith. Have a good one now. Peace.
All right.
All right.